A beautiful, clear picture of someone's face can speak 1,000 words, but too often your digital camera has a difficult time capturing even skin tones. This becomes especially obvious when your subjects have very dark or very light skin. But you can get beautiful, rich pictures no matter who your subject is. It's easy if you know how to fool your camera. Today, I'm going to teach you how to work with your camera's metering system to bring out the rich details in your subject's skin. And then you'll learn how to work with your pictures on the computer to bring out any details that the camera may have hidden. Get the most out of your digital camera. That's next on The Whole Picture. Welcome to The Whole Picture. I'm Erin Manning. You know, taking good pictures of people with really light skin tones and really dark skin tones can be a real challenge, especially if they're both in the picture together. Actually, taking a photograph anywhere where you have a lot of darks and lights in the image, a lot of contrast, can be a challenge. That's because digital cameras are really better at just capturing those mid-tones in the image. Add on to the fact that a lot of people leave their camera in the automatic setting so that when they go and take a picture with a lot of contrast in the scene, that camera's light meter is going to analyze all the lights and darks and everything in the scene and make its best guess for the exposure. The only problem is its best guess might be wrong. So you want to make sure you know how your camera works, all those functions and features, know how to use them so they'll compensate for the camera's limits and you can get the best exposure possible. Now I have a student, Elijah, and he took a picture of his sister and he left the camera in the automatic setting and he took a picture of his sister in her stark white kitchen. So you might guess what happened. The camera's light meter exposed for all the lights and darks in the scene. Now there were more lights in the scene, so it underexposed the entire image. So he just didn't get the results he was hoping for. Let me show you some pictures I took where I compensated for the contrast in the scene with some of my camera's features. Now this is my flat file I use for all my photographs. We've got all kinds of stuff in here. Here's a photograph I took where I looked at the background, I analyzed it and basically took everything out of it, just made sure it was a nice contrasting color to his sweater, and there was nothing else for the camera to distract the camera's light exposure, meter, everything, so just paid attention to him. So right now we've got a great exposure on his face. In his skin tones you can see all the details. Okay? In this photograph, well, I knew I was dealing with a lot of contrast here. I've got the white wall and the medium tones of the weights and his darker skin. So what I did is I spot metered in on his skin tone with the camera and then drew back a little bit and took the photograph. That way it exposed correctly for his skin tone and for everything else in the picture. Okay, this one's a lot of fun. I was at a party and I used a flash. So what I did is I exposed the flash for her skin, and this way I was able to pick up detail in her skin and get the great color, and it didn't overexpose his skin either, and it just turned out great. It was a lot of fun. So by the end of today, Elijah should be able to take great photographs with the proper exposure just like these. The first thing I'm going to teach you today is how to analyze the entire scene and simplify that background. Next, I'll show you how to use the exposure compensation feature on your camera and help your light meter out a little bit. And then I'll show you how to adjust your light meter and expose for one specific area of your image called spot metering. And then finally, we'll come back here to the studio and work with the images on the computer using something called a histogram. Okay, there's no special equipment we're going to need today other than the camera, so while I head over to Elijah's, check out some of the other photographs I took using the functions on my camera to get the best exposure. Sometimes getting the most out of your digital camera means not letting it do all the work. Next, I'll show you how simplifying things can make your camera work even better, and how you can take back some control to get the shots you want. That's coming up on The Whole Picture. Welcome back to The Whole Picture. The light meter in your digital camera is designed to achieve the best images from the mid-tones in the scene. As a result, many times when photographing people with either very dark or light skin, the results are muddy and disappointing. My student Elijah Drake is a flight attendant and wants to take great pictures of his family to enjoy while he's away. In the pictures he's taken so far, it's difficult to make out the details in the faces, so I'm heading to Elijah's to teach him how to get great skin tones out of his digital camera. Hey, Elijah.
Hey, Erin. How you doing? I'm good. What about you?
Wonderful. I love this tree you have in the front yard.
Awesome tree.
Great leaves.
You already got one.
Ready to get started?
I am. Shay's inside.
Okay.
Erin, this is my niece, Shay. Shay, this is Erin.
Hi, Shay.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Ready to get your picture taken?
I'm ready.
Okay, well, you look great in those colors.
Thank you.
All right, Elijah, let's start with your camera.
All right.
Now, most point-and-shoot cameras are designed to average out the light and the contrast in the entire scene, okay? Add on to the fact that our eyes can see a broader range of light from the brightest highlights to the darkest shadows than our cameras are capable of capturing, and you'll understand why your pictures turn out maybe too contrasty with not enough detail in the bright areas or the dark areas, why it doesn't look like what your eyes actually see. Okay, kind of like that picture you sent me of your sister.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, you took a picture of her against a bright white background, so the camera's light meter exposed for the bright white background and underexposed your sister, so we couldn't see all the details in her face. But there are some things you can do to help out your camera. And we professionals have been trained to pay attention to the background, so I'm going to teach you about that. Let's try taking a picture of Shay right now. And we'll see all the background behind her. We've got the white fireplace, and all those details may confuse our camera, and it might not expose it correctly.
How's that?
Yep, and it's true. We can't really see all the features in her face because it underexposed her face. All right, but if we just change our perspective, Shay, if you want to move over here, and we'll just move a little bit over here, like about right here, and now take the photograph. We have her in a darker background, so the camera's light meter should expose more correctly for her skin tone. If you're going to use the automatic settings on your camera, it's especially important to start by analyzing your entire scene before you take your pictures. Looking the scene over first will help you capture the best possible skin tones, especially when they're darker or lighter than average. If you're outside, move your subject into an area that avoids great levels of contrast that will make it harder for your camera to capture the proper exposure. When inside, avoid any area that is very light, like in front of a window, or very dark, like a door into another room. Minimize these areas by closing the blinds or the door. Put your subject in position and try taking a shot with everything on automatic, including the flash. When on automatic, most flash pictures will have an increased level of contrast, making it even harder to capture the detail in skin tones. Turn off the flash and take the same picture again. Notice how the picture is much more evenly exposed. Now try turning on more lights and take the picture again. When set on the automatic setting, the camera will make its best guess to give you the optimal exposure. Zoom in or move in as close as you can to minimize the background even more. You can also try moving your subject closer to the window to increase the amount of light. Adjust the blinds and curtains to give you the optimum look. I like to try to use sheer curtains to help give a softer light on the subject. Just keep experimenting until you get the look you want. So pretty out here with all these leaves and everything.
Amazing.
Shay, why don't you have a seat right over here, and we'll use the leaves as a backdrop. I think this will be a nice spot.
Okay.
Now, shooting pictures inside, I think you can really see what our challenges were as far as shooting someone with a darker skin tone. Right? But the same thing applies when you're shooting people with really light skin. And the reason being, the whole problem is having a lot of contrast in your scene. Now, you also might be shooting pictures, say, outside, for instance, where you have very limited control over the background and the lighting. But there is a way to control your camera to adjust for the exposure and get just the right picture. It's called using your exposure compensation setting on the camera. And it's really easy to do. Basically what it does is it allows you to control the amount of light coming into the camera without having to fool with all those other settings. So before we get started though, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the camera. And we'll just leave it in the automatic mode without doing anything else to it. And take a picture of Shay and let's see how it turns out. Okay, nice shot, but her skin tone is still underexposed.
Muted.
Yeah, just a little muddy. So I'm gonna show you the exposure compensation setting. It's right here. By using the exposure compensation feature on your camera, you utilize the camera's automatic settings and then adjust them to bring out the area in the scene that's important to you. Take a picture in the automatic setting, then look at the picture in the LCD and analyze the area that's either too dark or too light. In most digital cameras, adjusting the exposure up or down is as simple as pressing the navigation button. To increase the exposure, simply press the up arrow on your camera until you're satisfied with the way the picture looks in the LCD. There will usually be some indication of the compensation level in the LCD. Another trick that I like to use when taking pictures with my point-and-shoot camera is to use the camera's preset exposure settings, also called picture-taking modes. Each setting is a combination of shutter speed and lens opening that's designed to compensate for a specific lighting condition. They can be very helpful when the auto setting just doesn't give you what you want. For example, this camera has a backlight setting that compensates for a bright background. In the case of dark skin tones, it fools the camera into bringing out the subject. You can even combine manual exposure compensation with any picture-taking mode. Now, every camera is different, so know what your camera's capabilities are before you miss that once-in-a-lifetime shot. Experiment with your camera's picture-taking modes and exposure compensation until you know you can capture the shots you want. For more information on exposure compensation or any of today's lessons, just log on to our website at DIYnetwork.com. You can also see more of the pictures we took. Now that you've compensated for your camera's shortcomings, you'll learn how to make sure your light meter is spot on. That's next on The Whole Picture. Welcome back to The Whole Picture. Getting good digital pictures in any high contrast setting is difficult. In the automatic setting, cameras have a hard time capturing the full range of tones. Now, by working with the camera's automatic settings, it is possible to capture a broader, richer range of tone. But what if your pictures still aren't hitting the spot? Welcome back to The Whole Picture. I'm Erin Manning, and I'm teaching Elijah how to take better photographs with lighter and darker skin tones, because digital cameras just sometimes don't do it so well. Now, we were taking pictures of Elijah's niece, Shay, but we're also joined now by their friend, Jamie.
Hi.
Which is a perfect time to go into our next lesson.
I can't wait.
Okay, because it's all about shooting pictures with people with light skin tone and dark skin tone in the same scene.
Okay.
All right, now to get the best exposure, you need to understand a little bit more about the light metering in your camera.
Right.
Okay, now most people oftentimes have their camera set to automatic.
Right.
Which meters all the light in the entire scene. Okay, so if we were to take a picture of Shay and Jamie together, their skin tones might look a little muddy.
Right.
So what I would do in this case is I would do something called spot metering.
And why would you do that, Erin?
Okay. Well, spot metering, what it does is it concentrates on one subject in your scene and meters specifically in that spot.
Okay.
So in this instance, I would probably want to spot meter on Shay. Remember the pictures we took of her outside before where her complexion was a little muddy, it was underexposed?
Yeah.
In this case, I would expose on her face and the rest of the light in the scene would follow.
Okay.
Depending on your camera, changing to spot metering usually takes a little more knowledge of the menu system than other features. Put your camera into menu mode and navigate to the exposure metering option. Press the OK or select button to choose it. Then navigate to the center spot option and select it. Take the camera out of menu mode and look at the LCD. There will be some indication that the camera is now set to spot metering. In this case, it's a circle in the center of the frame. Now frame your subject with the darker skin tone and zoom in to fill the frame, adjusting the circle on your subject. Next, press the shutter button down halfway so the camera will focus, and set the exposure based on what is inside the spot metering indicator. Continue holding down the shutter button and reframe your shot to include the rest of your subjects. Then just press the shutter button down the remainder of the way to capture the photograph. Some cameras have more advanced spot metering that will allow you to lock in the exposure without continuing to hold down the shutter button. With these cameras, once you're set to spot metering, you choose the spot to meter on and hit the lock button to save the exposure. Then reframe your shot and watch how the spot metering goes back to how you set it when you took the picture. Okay, Elijah, well, there's still light outside. Get a lot of pictures.
Okay, I will.
All right, and I'll see you tomorrow at my studio. We'll work with them on the computer and make them even better.
Thanks, Erin.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, girls. Even with the best metering, there are still ways to improve your pictures. Up next, I'll introduce you to a histogram, a tool that can bring the most out of anyone's photographs. Welcome back to The Whole Picture. Getting beautiful, even skin tones can be difficult under the best circumstances. You can work with your camera's settings and metering to help ensure that you bring home the best possible pictures, but many times your pictures still might be a little flat. I'm meeting my student Elijah Drake back at my studio to teach him how to work with his photos on the computer and get the most out of what his camera captured. Did you get some good shots of Shay after I left?
No, I didn't. It got too dark.
Oh, that's all right. You know, I think you have a lot of good shots anyway.
Yes,
You're on the computer now.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and click through and take a look.
All right. That's the first one.
Okay, that's nice. Inside, she has nice skin tone and everything. It looks pretty good.
What about that one?
This one right here is nice. Let's see this. Yeah, okay, that's way too much contrast, I think. Can't see the details on that as much, but that's a little better.
Whoa, I like the leaves.
Yeah, the leaves are beautiful. It's beautiful color. And
40 million leaves.
Exactly, that day there are a lot of leaves. Her skin tone looks great.
Oh, I love that
And
one.
you capture the detail in her skin tone and also in the lighter leaves, so that's good.
Oh, I like that one too. That's the
Very
third
nice.
thing you were telling me about.
Yeah.
Try that.
Yeah, she's not right in the middle. She's off to the side a little bit. That looks
That's
good.
beautiful too.
Okay.
It's a little light.
Pretty girls, yeah, but it's a little contrasty still.
I like that one.
This is very nice. This is very pretty. It's a little underexposed, but actually this will be a good picture for us to work with.
Okay.
You ready to start?
I'm ready.
Okay. Let's, in any software program, it's always a good idea when you're working on a file to save a copy. So we're gonna come up here to the menu bar and click on File.
Okay.
And roll down to Save As.
Got it.
And go ahead, right where it's highlighted there, just type in whatever you want to call this file. We're going to name it something different.
Let's name it Shay.
Yeah, this way we'll save it as a copy, and you'll just be working on the copy, and you can archive the original and not worry about it in case anything happens.
Save.
Okay, now what we're going to do is come up here to the menu bar and click on Enhance. And we want to roll down to Adjust Lighting, and then, yes, very carefully roll over to Levels. Now we have a Levels dialog box that pops up, and inside this is something called a histogram. Now a histogram is really just a graphic representation of the tonal range of your images, so between the darkest darks to the lightest lights, all in this histogram here. Now we can see we have more darks than we do lights, right?
Correct.
Beneath this histogram are some sliders, slider endpoints. We have one, that's right, you've already clicked and dragged on the light one. If you click and drag that over just to the beginning of the histogram there,
It sets it?
yeah, it lightens up the whole image.
Gotcha.
But not too much. You can really adjust the contrast of the image and also the midtone. So that was the light slider for the brights. How about clicking on the one right in the middle, and you can adjust the midtones.
Midtones. That's nice.
If you move it over too much, there's not enough contrast to it, it's a little muddy. So you have to kind of play with it.
Bleeds it out too much.
So the middle one you can play with a little bit.
What about
the
that
one
one?
here on the left is for the dark tones in the image, and that's pretty much set where it is. You could move it over a tad if you wanted to, but it's gonna cut off some of the darkest darks in there.
How about that?
I think that's very good, right where you have it. So we'll leave it just like that. And this way, it really adjusts the tones in your image and still leaves in the darks and the lights.
Right.
So I think it looks pretty good. Let's come up here and save it. We'll go to File, Save.
Right.
And then we can go ahead and print it out. All right, so let's come up here again to File, and we'll go to Print. Roll right down here to Print. If you'd like to learn more about shooting pictures with contrasting skin tones or any of the techniques you saw here today, just log on to our website at DIYnetwork.com. Okay, Elijah, are you ready to see the final picture?
I'm ready.
All right, here it is.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, I think this turned out great. Look, you captured the detail in Shay's darker skin and her friend's lighter skin and even all the detail.
The leaves.
Yeah, the leaves.
Wow.
Really, really nice.
I'm
Beautiful
impressed.
color.
I'm impressed.
Okay. Well, keep up the good work. You did a good job today. And remember, always bring that camera with you, because the more pictures you take, the better you get.
Gotcha.
It was fun working with you today.
Same here, Erin.
I hope you'll use what you learned today and take your own great photographs. Join me next time on The Whole Picture. All right, now